I'm Robin Tudor, founder of Empowered Total Health, and welcome to this week's weekly update, which is going to be my first report on the 5th International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, which henceforth I'm just going to abbreviate to PBNHC, which I was enormously privileged to attend last month, September 2017. I'm going to focus on 3 presentations from that conference that pivot around the question, how and why do people change their health habits? As a lifestyle medicine practitioner, this is a question that's preoccupied me really for my over 22 years in practice and for the 4 years before that I was a full-time student. Many of my clients already know that they should be eating better and exercising regularly and getting enough sleep and all that good stuff. But day after day, they find themselves repeating the same old bad habits. They read books on nutrition, they take up a gym membership to try to motivate themselves to change, they beat themselves up when they binge on junk food and they feel sick afterwards. They live with this constant fear that their bad habits will lead to cancer or a heart attack, just like their mum or their dad or their grandmother had. And still, they don't change. Now, we live in an age in which all the information that we need to improve our health is literally at our fingertips. It's just a Google search away, as long as you have the know-how to sort the proverbial wheat from the chaff. But knowing that you should change doesn't actually make you change, in case you haven't noticed. So I was really chuffed when the PBNHC co-founder, Dr. Scott Stoll, who just has to be one of the nicest people on the planet, opened the conference with a keynote titled The Science and Psychology of Fat to Fit, which focused on that all-important process of change. Scott summarized what he had learned about why and how people change by walking the audience through the incredible story of Milan Ross, who actually joined him on the stage to discuss his remarkable health transformation. Now, Milan's story was featured in the hit documentary Eating You Alive. He'd maintained a good weight and fitness level until the age of about 24, and then slowly began to gain weight. He was eating the typical American diet. Eventually, his weight ballooned out to over 500 pounds, which is roughly 227 kilos. I think at his heaviest, it was about 518 pounds. And he was suffering from diabetic neuropathy and high blood pressure and high cholesterol. He took a job at Whole Foods because they had a really generous employee health insurance scheme. He tried, and he figured he'd need it. He tried various diets, but he never found any way of eating that was actually sustainable for him. So Milan became pretty good at playing the role of the jolly fat guy, pretending he was okay with being this morbidly obese man. But then came the day that just changed everything for him. His son was desperate to go on the Harry Potter ride at a Florida theme park with his dad, with Milan. But Milan couldn't fit into the ride seat. So there's his son wailing at not being able to have his dad go on the ride with him. And Milan being just abjectly humiliated because, of course, this whole experience is taking place in front of this whole queue of people who are waiting to get on the Harry Potter ride. And in that moment of intense pain, Milan made a promise to himself that he would never let his son down again. His poor health status actually made Milan eligible to attend one of 4 intensive lifestyle change programs that Whole Foods makes available completely free of charge to their highest risk employees. And Milan signed up for a retreat that was run by none other than Scott Stoll, co-organizer of the PBNHC. And that's where Milan learned to adopt the whole food plant-based diet and exercise program that enabled him to lose over 200 pounds, more than 90 kilos, and over 30 inches, roughly 76 centimeters, off his waist, to get off all his medications and to completely resolve his diabetic neuropathy, which, by the way, is a condition that's considered incurable and for which there's no effective medical management. So that's a pretty impressive result. The acceptance and support and belief in his capacity to change that Milan experienced from the other participants of the retreat and also from the staff was crucial in persuading him that he really could break up with unhealthy food. He really could adopt a completely new way of eating, and he could begin to use his body again in a way that wasn't painful. When he got home, his wife agreed to go all in with him, and that provided him with the support that he needed to continue with the lifestyle changes that he'd begun at the retreat. And of course, as he lost weight and got off his medications and said goodbye to the chronic pain and rediscovered the joy of movement, the benefits that he was experiencing motivated him to continue on with the changes that he'd made and to amp up his diet and exercise program to a new level. Now, needless to say, all the people around him noticed the changes in Milan. It's kind of hard to not notice when someone loses 200 pounds. And he began coaching others who were struggling with obesity and ill health, and eventually he developed his own wellness business. So, what were the key elements in Milan's process of change? I would boil it all down to pain, love, and joy. The pain of humiliation and letting his son down was like the fire alarm that woke him up to the fact that he was on the wrong path and he just had to change. But it was love and joy that helped him find the path that he needed to follow and then to stick with it. His love for his son and his determination to never let him down again caused him to apply for Scott Stoll's retreat. The love that he experienced from the people that he met there helped him feel strong enough to change, and the love of his wife facilitated him in making his diet and lifestyle changes permanent. He began treating his body with loving care. He rediscovered his love of movement and he expressed his love for others by helping them to make the life transforming changes that he had made. Out of all of this came a joy that he'd really forgotten that he could experience. And that culminated when he was able to go back to that Florida theme park and go on the Harry Potter ride with his son. And he actually played that video, or played the video of his son's reaction after they got off the ride to us at the conference. I don't think there was a dry eye in the house when he played that video. Now, pain, love, and joy, the threads that run through the fabric of Dr. Dean Ornish's personal life and his professional life too. His presentations are always highlights of the PBNHC, at least for me. But this year, Scott Stoll had something different in mind for the second night of the conference. So rather than a formal presentation from Dean, he got him up on the stage, then eventually had him joined by his wife, Anne, and conducted a really profoundly moving, in-depth interview with both of them about their lives and their work. Bring on an evening with Dean Ornish. I'd heard Dean Ornish talk about the suicidal depression that he experienced as a medical student before, but never in its depth and detail. He described the mental torment that he endured as a medical student, as he grappled with the conviction that he was stupid and worthless, that he'd kind of lucked his way into medical school, and that it was only a matter of time before he was found out and thrown out of medical school. And it was just truly harrowing. But ultimately, his pain triggered him to change, same as with Milan Ross. And in hindsight, he has gratitude for that experience of suffering, which of course has given him enormous empathy for the suffering of the patients that he's been treating ever since. Now, as a result of that empathy and understanding, Ornish has developed comprehensive, holistic lifestyle change programs for people with cardiovascular disease or risk factors for it, and men with early stage prostate cancers. And he's proven that these approaches work. His programs incorporate instruction in adopting a low-fat, whole-food, plant-based diet, moderate exercise, stress management training, and participation in in-person or online support groups. Or, as he puts it, teaching people how to eat better, move more, stress less, and love more. And there's that love word again. Ornish often speaks about how much pushback he's had from other doctors and from the research community for daring to talk about love, about the importance of love in the practice of healthcare. But when he showed a video clip of participants in his prostate cancer program who were talking about these incalculable benefits that they'd gained from participating in support groups, I don't think really anyone in the audience was left in any doubt whatsoever that feeling loved and valued by others helps people feel better and make the right choices for their health. And then when Dean spoke about his wife, Anne, who's been his partner in both life and work for decades, as having the gift of making everything that she touches more beautiful, including himself, even though he'd always felt ugly before. I was reaching for the Kleenex again, let me tell you. And I couldn't help but think about how impoverished this world would have been if Dean hadn't tapped into a source of love that persuaded him not to end his life, but instead to continue at medical school and become the kind of doctor that sick, scared, heartbroken people actually need, not one who just wants to prescribe a pill or a procedure. But because he made the choice to face his pain, Dean allowed himself to become a conduit for love, and in the process, he reconnected with joy. Pain, love, and joy. And that same thread ran through the life trajectory of Rich Roll, who delivered the keynote Plant-Powered Athlete on the final day of the conference. I've been a long-time subscriber to Rich's podcast, and I've read his book Finding Ultra, so I was pretty familiar with his transformation from college athlete to alcoholic to sober but still food addicted slob to this super fit Ultraman doing these crazy endurance events. And to being a leading advocate of a whole food plant-based diet for health and for athletic performance. It's one thing to hear that, to read it, but it's quite another thing to actually be in the audience while he actually tells that story. And to see every one of the nearly 1,000 doctors, nurses, dietitians, psychologists, personal trainers, health coaches, and all the other health professionals just mesmerized every eye in the audience on him as he took us along with him on that wild roller coaster ride of his descent into hell and then his journey back to health and healing. Rich's transformation was prompted by physical pain. It was an experience of struggling to climb just 8 steps in his house while he was ripped with chest pain, sweating. This is on the night before he turned 40. And all that physical pain, of course, just a manifestation of the emotional pain of living a life in which he felt utterly rudderless and disconnected from any higher purpose. And so, after a day of work that he found meaningless, he'd numb out each night, on the couch watching junk TV and eating junk food. And then, struggling to get up the stairs, this terrifying thought struck him that he might not live to see his little daughter grow up and get married. So it was love for his family that spurred him into taking action, which in his case was the 7-day juice cleanse that left him feeling so good that he decided to take up exercise again for the first time in decades. And then as the effects of his improved diet and his daily running and swimming and biking started to kick in, he had this utterly transformative experience. He went out on what was meant to be a half-hour trail run, and then it turned into this 4-hour, 24-mile personal odyssey. And during that run, Rich just tapped into that pure joy of movement. And the physical strength and the vitality and the stamina that he felt that day, which he hadn't experienced in decades, generated a sense of euphoria. It was perhaps the first time in his life that he felt this good, and almost certainly the first time in his life that he realized that he could get high on life without needing drugs or alcohol to alter his state. And this experience set in motion a chain of events which eventually resulted in him getting out of the legal practice that was strangling his soul and reconfiguring himself as a wellness entrepreneur with a massive social media following and one of the top 10 health podcasts in the world. Pain, love, and joy. They're the substrates of change, and they alchemically combine to transmute the dross of human suffering into the gold of a meaningful, fulfilling life. Once people realize that what they've been doing is what led them to where they are now. And if they want to be somewhere else, somewhere that's better than where they are right now, they've got to do something different. So what's the pain that's alerting you that you're on the wrong path? And what sources of love can you tap into? Or how can you become a source of love for others? And what joy might be waiting for you to discover it or rediscover it when you change? I'd love to hear your story. Please comment below. And of course, as always, if you've enjoyed this video, like it, share it on your social media. Consider these questions. Just sit with them, walk with them, iron with them, cook with them for the next week. And I look forward to catching up with you for next week's weekly update.